Hi everyone, I'm here today to give you some recommendations based off of my favourite video games. In my last video I talked about how in the past year I've been really busy and haven't gotten anywhere near as much reading done as I would have liked. In all honesty, video games have been a big part of that. In the spirit of wanting to get back into my reading, I thought I would give you guys some recommendations based off of games that I have been playing and really loving, and some books that I think are also great and share similar characteristics. I have to start with the game that started the gaming binge, and that is Stardew Valley. This is probably my favourite game of all time and definitely my biggest time sink. It is a farming simulation RPG where you inherit your grandpa's farm and move away to settle down and try and restore Stardew Valley. The book that I'm going to recommend alongside this is The Goblin Emperor. The book follows Maya, a goblin prince essentially living in exile who inherits an empire after the tragic death of his family. Maya is tasked with restoring a kingdom in turmoil, but despite that kind of heavy premise, this is one of the most wholesome books I've ever read. Everything is taken with such a calmness to it, and it makes it such a refreshing read in terms of high fantasy. I absolutely adore this book, and I actually think if you like the calm pace of Stardew Valley, then The Goblin Emperor is an excellent book choice. The next game is Ori and the Blind Forest. This is a platforming game about a spirit tasked with restoring the dying lands of Nibel. And the book recommendation I have to go along with this is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is about a boy named Laszlo Strange who is obsessed with the mythical city of Weep. When a band of explorers come along seeking somebody to join their expedition to Weep, Laszlo jumps at the first chance he gets. Both of these characters have seemingly humble upbringings with a much greater destiny. And the biggest thing to me that links them together is that I cannot talk about Ori and the Blind Forest without talking about the absolutely stunning visuals, just like I can't talk about Strange the Dreamer without mentioning Laini Taylor's exquisitely beautiful writing style. While the game and the stories are both fun with super smooth and challenging platforming and also really interesting characters and an exciting story, it's the way that those things are presented that really make these two stand out. The next game is For the King. This is a super campy turn-based roguelike game where you set out on a campaign to avenge the king. It's relatively quick but quite challenging and frankly so much fun just to play with other people. My recommendation to go alongside this is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. In this we follow Clay, a retired mercenary who is invited to rejoin the band after one of the previous members approaches him seeking help to find his missing daughter. It's also a really campy story that is just a lot of fun, employs a lot of tropes I then likes to play around with, so an excellent match for the King. The next game is Celeste. Now this isn't so much one of my favourites as it is my sister's favourite, and that's how I ended up playing quite a lot of this. This is a really technically challenging platformer about a girl named Madeline looking to climb Celeste Mountain. The story itself is really simple and really focuses on the character of Madeline and her own internal battle to prove to herself that she can climb this mountain and is essentially fighting with her own inner demons. So my recommendation to go with this is Half Bad by Sally Green. This is an urban fantasy about a world where witches exist, and you get good witches and bad witches. They live very separately and have very different laws, but our main character Nathan is actually half good witch, half bad. And as laws against the bad witches start to get tougher, he faces a lot of his own problems and actually a lot of danger. The internal battle that goes on inside him as he struggles to meet these two sides of himself and accept himself as he is, and the character growth that he goes through goes really well with the themes that Celeste explores. My next game is Hollow Knight. This is another platformer in which we follow a small bug as he descends into the depths of the city of Hallownest. This is a very heavily combat focused game, again with really beautiful and adorable graphics, but I will warn you that the combat is hard. This is kind of referred to as the Dark Souls of platformers, and I definitely see where that's coming from. My recommendation to go with this is The Girl in the Stars by Mark Lawrence. This is set in the world of Abbeth, as in the story of Red Sister and the Warrior Nuns, also by Mark Lawrence. But this story focuses on the people living on the ice in its harsh environments. The main character eventually comes to taking a dive underneath the ice and exploring the dark, cavernous world underneath it. The fact that she's constantly facing danger and slowly uncovering darker, deeper truths about what happens and why this world underneath the ice exists in the state that it does really fits well with the themes of Hollow Knight, and I think are just a really fun comparison. Next we have Octopath Traveler. This is a JRPG following 8 different characters who meet up but go on their own individual journeys. The book to go alongside this is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is a feminist high fantasy about a world with dragons where an ancient evil starts to awaken. Both of these do really well incorporating classic fantasy themes, but at the core really focus on the individual characters. While Priory has got a main story arc and definitely creates links between the different stories that are told, each character's arc really stands on its own. I guess the other reason they go really well together is they're both super long. Like a good JRPG, Octopath Traveler will take you up to 100 hours or even more, and Priory of the Orange Tree is like 1,000 pages long. However, I have to say they are both absolutely worth the time you put into them. The last game I'm going to share with you guys is It Takes Two. This is a game I played with my partner, and I cannot recommend highly enough if you're looking for a game to play with a significant other or a friend, or just looking for a fun multiplayer experience. The story centres around a couple about to go through a divorce when they suddenly find themselves magically turned into dolls and must work together to return back to normal and in the process fix their relationship. The book I have alongside this is This Savage Song by V.E. Schwab. Now honestly, This Savage Song is very different mood-wise, but at its core shares some real similarities. This Savage Song is set in a world where monstrous acts breed monsters. The city where the story is set is rampant with crime, and therefore monsters are everywhere. Our main characters are Kate and August. Kate is a monster hunter, and August is a monster who just wants to be human. As tensions in the city unfold, Kate and August really have to work together to solve the problems. I'm sure you can see why that theme of coming together and finding similarities and being able to work as a team fits super well with this game, even if the mood of the two might be a little bit different. So that's it from me today and for my video game book recommendations. Let me know if you have also played any of these games. Definitely let me know if you decide to pick up any of these books. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!